The time is now 12:07, and we're going to call this specially called budget workshop meeting in order. I want to thank everyone who is here with us today, personally in the audience, and all those who are watching online. Thank you for being interested and invested in our district. This is a specially called budget workshop of the Board of Trustees of the Alice Independent School District that shall be held at the Alice ISD Administration Building, Boardroom number 2, Coyote Trail, Alice, Texas, 7332 on Thursday, July 24th, 2025 at 12 p.m. At this time, we've called the meeting to order, and we will then establish roll call and a quorum. An announcement of this meeting has been held and duly called, and notice has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.043, and the Texas Government Code. Present today is Dr. Trevino, the Superintendent of Schools, myself, Jennifer Barrera, the Vice President, Mr. Herman Ariano, our Secretary, Mr. Ciro Zamora, Trustee, Mr. Adrian Pena, Trustee, Ms. Debbie Guerra, Trustee, Mr. Cody Leeds, and Trustee Leader 1. So at this time, we have a quorum. Item number 3, the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag and the Texas flag in a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
On to item number 4 on the agenda, the public comment. Audience participation at a board meeting is limited to the portion of the meeting designated to receive public comment in accordance with Board Policy BED Local. At all other times during a board meeting, the audience shall not enter into discussion or debate on matters being considered by the board unless requested by the presiding officer. If the speaker is seeking board resolution of a specific complaint, that concern should be addressed through the district's grievance policy. At regular board meetings, the board shall permit public comment regardless of whether the topic is an item on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. Public comment shall occur at the beginning of the meeting. Individuals who wish to participate during the portion of the meeting designated for public comment shall sign up with the board's presiding officer or designee before the meeting begins, as specified in the board's procedures on the public comment, and shall indicate the agenda item or topic on which they wish to address the board. Except as permitted by Board Policy BED Local and the board's procedures on public comment, an individual's comments to the board shall not exceed 3 minutes per meeting. When necessary for effective meeting management or to accommodate large numbers of individuals wishing to address the board, the presiding officer may adjust public comment procedures in accordance with BED Local, including establishing an overall time limit for the public comment and adjusting the time allotted to each speaker. However, no individual shall be given less than 1 minute to make public comments. At this time, we've checked the public comment sign-up sheet and no one has signed up. On to item number 5 of the agenda, the budget workshop. 5A, the salary study and the tax lease summary. Dr. Trevino?
Good afternoon, members of the board, members of the audience. There have been some changes with legislation, specifically with House Bill 2, that affect budgets and affect teacher salaries for many districts, or really for all districts throughout the state, but in particular for districts with less than 5,000 students enrolled. And so we're going to be sharing our presentation as far as possible recommendations for raises for the upcoming school year to address the changes with House Bill 2. This year, Alice ISD went ahead and contracted again with TASB, and we have Jennifer Borton here with TASB, and she did do a comprehensive analysis of the district salaries as far as, again, comparing us to other districts, comparing us to the market, and making recommendations for us to be able to pay fair salaries across the board. So I invite Ms. Borton to the podium to share her findings.
Good afternoon, Dr. Trevino. Thank you for having me here, Board of Trustees. I'm excited to be here to actually visit in person this year. Your district is beautiful. It's always a joy whenever I can come and visit school districts. So today we are going to be reviewing at a high level the pay maintenance review that I conducted with the district this year to look at your compensation plan, to address compliance for House Bill 2, since that is a new topic, as well as to provide some recommendations for the board moving forward when there is adoption of the compensation plan. Last year, I had the privilege of working with the district on a pay systems review, and so we worked together to create the market-based system and to put a system in place, and this year we are maintaining that system, and we're going to see all the great work that the district has been doing to provide not only strong pay for teachers, but for all employees in Alice ISD. I am an assistant director. I do compensation as well as lots of other things. So if you were here last year also, I did the staffing review at that time. And so I do understand a lot of the data with Alice ISD and your structures. But today we're going to specifically talk about the process of compensation. And I did talk with Dr. Trevino. We will be offering some board credit today. I'm sure all of y'all will enjoy that. So we'll make sure that you get certificates after this meeting. But with that, you have to learn a little bit about compensation in schools. All right, so we're going to go through, first off, the review process that we do, and this is our standard process that when we work with districts with compensation, we go through this process with every district. So first off, what we do is we work with district administration in kickoff discussions to determine what the goals are for the district for their compensation plan, where they would like to focus their efforts. Especially in many districts right now, we do have budget constraints, and so sometimes we cannot put all of our efforts for one employee group or one type of strategy. And so we want to make sure that we understand where the district is at and where they want to go in the future with their compensation plan. We also go through a specific detailed process to collect data from the district. That would be all employee data, data about pay plans, pay structures, stipends, anything that would relate to compensation of employees. And so the HR department is the contact here, and we worked closely together this year to ensure that data is cleaned up. We do have an analyst, actually a data analyst that supports the process on the front side. And so she worked very closely with the district too. Her name was Mariah, and she did a great job. Once we get all of that data and we clean it up, we take that data and we match it to market. And we're going to talk a little bit about our market peers and what market comparisons are in this study, a real high level overview. But basically when we're talking about market for school districts, we're looking at school districts of similar size and enrollment. For certain jobs, we're looking at local geographic districts, but we also look at some non-school market to ensure that we are paying competitively for those jobs that we see both in schools as well as outside of schools or in the retail and private sector. We, as TASB HR Services, we have about 160 common jobs that we see across schools in Texas that we match for. So every single job in a school district is not going to have a market match. However, the majority of them will. And with those jobs that maybe they do not have the same exact title, we look at the job descriptions and we match accordingly. Where we may have some questions about matching jobs, we work with the district to ensure that those matches are appropriate. And if not, then we do not include those matches so we don't skew our data. Once we have the market, we go through and we do analysis and we build models for improvement. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to align all of our pay structures with market value. And we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later. And we also look to adjust employee pay. And we do this in a variety of ways. So we group like jobs in different pay groups. So for Alice ISD, we have teachers and librarians. We have administrative professional, which would include any exempt positions that are either administrators or professional jobs. We have paraprofessional or clerical paraprofessional, which are more our instructional support jobs that are forward-facing on our campuses. Those would be our hourly support jobs, as well as those that are more clerical or business or HR in nature. And then we have our auxiliary side of the house, which would be any of our auxiliary jobs or hourly. So there are 4 major pay structures that we have for the district, and that compensation plan will be proposed to you at a later date for you to approve. The other part that we do is we use those pay structures to ensure that they are strong to market for all of the jobs aligned in pay grades for non-teachers and then for the teacher hiring schedule. And then we give some adjustments to certain employees and to certain pay groups to ensure that their salaries are moving towards market value or leading that market value because of the type of job, and to ensure that they're competitive, not only with other districts in the area, it may be with other jobs in the state as well as the private sector. So some objectives for a pay system within a school district, we produce a market-based system. We want to use that pay system to recruit employees, so we're really looking at strong entry and starting rates for all employees. We also want to make sure that there's competitive pay provided for experienced new hires. So if we're trying to attract talent from other surrounding districts or from other areas in the state, maybe even the private sector, we want to make sure that we're going to pay them well and we're going to be able to recruit them in. With that said, though, we really want to make sure that we're retaining our employees. When we hire great talent in our district, we want to be able to keep it. And the way that we do that is we advance that pay to market rates, and we're going to look at what that looks like in a minute. But we also provide market competitive pay increases. And so those are going to be some of the recommendations that the board will have to evaluate that we've provided to the district to ensure that the raises that will be offered will be market competitive for employees in the district. We also want to make sure that we're paying fairly for job value. And so we don't want to overpay jobs, but we certainly don't want to underpay jobs. There's a lot of factors that go into what we create as a competitive salary for an employee, but we also want to make sure that our structures are supporting the least amount of over and underpayment. We want to try to have those jobs surround market value as much as possible based on years of experience. And then ultimately, we use the market-based system to control costs. And so with that, we can propose salaries, plans, increases that are driven by the available budget that we have. We can also plan for those in a way that we know what budget money is going to come out. So it's kind of not all over the place. We know exactly or close to exactly what we will be spending. So when we're thinking about that market pay strategy in a market-based system, you can look here at the rectangle. So if we would consider that a pay grade, and we have multiple jobs of similar duties and responsibilities, let's say that pay grade there is our first pay grade, that we have custodians, maybe we have cafeteria workers, and maybe bus monitors. Well, the market value there is going to be 100%. That means that that is going to be the value, the average value for those jobs. We would like some of our employees to be at that 100%, but those would be employees with around 15-ish years of experience. But we would also like to see a spread of our employees from the bottom to the top based on years of experience, because in school districts, we pay based on experience. And so it is very common, and what we would like to see is that we see a nice spread across that pay range. Every once in a while, we'll have some outliers at the very top, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It may just be prior pay practices that have increased their salary over time to be above that pay range. When we adjust our structures, we want everybody to be basically within that range, so we will bring them up to that minimum. Typically, the rule of thumb, although it's not a strict have to, is that we'd like to see most of our jobs within a 90 to 110% range when we're comparing to market. But a lot of times that will be based on the type of job that we have, their duties, responsibilities, as well as their years of experience. But the market value is what we're looking for. The other thing about a market value is that it moves. So the other name for the market value is a midpoint. But the reason it moves is because we're always adjusting it to be aligned with the market value. And as the market shifts, and as it increases more competitively, we are going to want to adjust our market value to be competitive. So often there are questions about, I'll never get to midpoint. Well, you may not want to be at midpoint because you want to be at the market value. So if we adjust it, we want to get you to that point. And we have to remember too, the midpoint is where we're calculating salaries in a market-based system. And so we want that market value to be strong. Did you have anything to add, Dr. Trevino?
When it comes to the midpoint, that's how we calculate all raises, right? Based on the midpoint. So even if you're below the midpoint or above, the raise will be at the midpoint in order for it to be consistent across. So I think that's, many times people think I should be at the max. But if every year the midpoint is moving, you're not gonna be at the max, right? But you're being paid the value of the job.
Yes, exactly. All right, so any questions on the compensation strategy before we move on? I want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable about this. This is a board workshop, so definitely feel free. Okay. All right, so now we're going to move into specific data for Alice ISD. So working with district administration, we chose this group of market peers, and our market peers are going to be in a compensation study, those peers that are geographically near you as a district. So we have, for the study this year, we have about 15 market districts. And when you look at your data chart, you can see that there's a few different districts that have some double asterisks there or an asterisk. So the double asterisk means that that particular district did not participate in the TASB HR salary survey. So we do not have market data. However, for those particular districts, we were able to obtain their teacher hiring schedules. So we have their teacher market and their teacher data. So you can see that we had 15 peers for that particular group. For exempt and non-exempt, so those would be your other non-teachers. We choose Corpus Christi because they are obviously only about 45 minutes from y'all, and you do compete with them for talent and for employees. But because they are so large, we exclude basically directors and above because those jobs look a little bit different. And we'll talk about market for directors and above in just a second. But overall, we were able to get 12 peers for our exempt and non-exempt, which is a good data set. And these are the same peers that we chose last year when we were doing the study. And typically, we like to keep them as similar as possible because we can see where the market shifts and what those districts are doing compared to us each year. The other thing that we use, the other market values that we use for non-school jobs, those jobs that we see both in a school district and possibly out in the private sector or retail. So think like an LVN, an RN, some of those type of business and HR jobs, is TASB HR Services actually pays for Economic Research Institute and pay scales by pay factor. We pay for that data. And so we pull that non-school data in where it's appropriate to make a combined comparison of both non-school as well as school district data for many jobs, and where there are certain jobs that we have no local market or school data for, we actually just use non-school. And so it's not all jobs, but it is jobs that we want to make sure that we have a comparison for to ensure they're placed appropriately in the structure, as well as being paid that market value like we've talked about. Okay, the first group we're going to talk about today are our teachers and librarians for their data and their market comparisons. So one thing that we do provide to districts is we provide some demographic data for teachers and librarians or anyone on the teacher hiring schedule. And for Alice ISD, it is all teachers, and then we have 2 librarians. And so they are included within that group. And so you can see that, you know, in school districts, we look at years of service. And at the time of this study, there were 296 teachers and librarians. And you can see that the experience data is well distributed for all of your teachers within the district. So this means that you're not only recruiting in, but you're retaining teachers and librarians with varied years of experience, but many of your employees are experienced, and that's what we'd like to see. On the next slide, we see demographics for those teachers and librarians newly hired to the district. And what we can see here at the time of this study that there were 40 teacher and librarians hired for this school year, and that the majority of those individuals recruited in have 0 years of experience. That is not necessarily a bad thing. That is just knowing that we are recruiting those into the district, but we're also able, if you look at the last slide, to be able to retain them. And Dr. Trevino, did you have anything to say about the recruiting in?
Recruitment is just difficult statewide, right? Teaching right now is at a point where the state is recognizing we're not producing enough teachers from any university to be able to supplement the needs of every district. So it is becoming very much more competitive for us to recruit. But that's why, I mean, we have attended multiple job fairs. We held a couple here in the district, and that really has helped us showcase the work of Alice ISD. Are we where we need to be? No, but right now we're at the lowest that we've ever had in starting off the year. We have 7 vacancies, and trying to fill those, that has been the lowest ever. You know, for many, many years, I guess I should never say never, but one of the lowest that we've had in years of, so are we where we want to be? No, but this is something that every district is struggling with.
Absolutely. Yes, there are just fewer teachers to be able to hire out there, and many of them that we're able to hire are new to the profession. This is a very similar demographic to our districts that we're seeing this year. Moving on, so now we're going to look at market comparisons for teachers and librarians. So this is going to be within 2 slides. The first slide is going to show the values in graph form, and then the next slide will be in actual value form. But what we see here is that, so for our process, we benchmark it 0, 5, 10, 15, and 20 years for teachers. And so for each of those years, the blue line is showing what the local market median is. So that means the median of those local districts that we discussed earlier compared to what Alice ISD is paying at those years. And you can see that Alice ISD is strong and above the local market median in every benchmarked or surveyed year. And you can also see too that we have this straight line or straight slope, and that's exactly what we would like to see in a school district. So we worked hard this last year, as with the support of the board, of course, but to be able to create a teacher hiring schedule that is strong and aligned with market, and that is what we would like to see. And we want to ensure that as much as possible, the district can maintain strong and competitive salaries for teachers and librarians. And we will have recommendations for that today. So when you look at values, you can see this in value form. You can see that for teacher and librarian pay, that the district is paying anywhere from 2 to 5% above market, which is strong. We always want to see teacher pay, librarian pay lead the market. That is very important. And then you can also see too that your most competitive year right now is at 10 years. And so when you're thinking about your experienced teachers in the district, you are paying those veteran teachers well as well. So the other thing that we provide data to districts for are stipends for hard to fill assignments. So this is not going to be every stipend that you offer in your district. That will be discussed later in the workshop with the district. But we do benchmark for certain critical need or high need type stipend areas. And so these are going to be the stipends that Alice ISD offers compared to the market median. And then where it says districts reporting, out of those peer districts, you can see out of the 12 that we have their market data, how many are reporting that particular stipend. So master's degree is a pretty common stipend that we see in districts that is provided to teachers that, you know, have attained that master's degree. Most districts value that, and that's a very common stipend to offer. As you can see, all of the peers offer that particular stipend. Secondary in math and science, many districts do offer this high needs area. It's one of those areas that most of the time they will give it to teachers because they have that composite certification. So they can teach any math, any science, and often they will provide either matching the market median or even more than that, because trying to recruit and retain those teachers is difficult. The one that we don't see on there is English language arts, but that actually in the past few years has become a challenge, and so the district will talk about that a little bit later also. Special education stipends have actually shifted a lot in the market. We are seeing that most districts are starting to offer these, even if they hadn't in the past, and we're seeing the values of these particular stipends increasing, especially the high need special education stipends. And so some districts are paying lots of money for those high needs. And so as you can see that you are leading the market for that high needs, and we would recommend that. And then you're a little bit below for the general resource, but again, where we would say to spend your money is for those high needs challenging assignments first. Then you do offer the bilingual and the ESL general, and you can see also how you compare to market. And again, the way that those typically work in districts is they're provided to the teacher that's actually in that assignment. And it really depends on what your program looks like, on what that may be paid for or what it looks like. So now we're gonna jump into non-teachers. And this is, even though we have 6 different groups on here, we're gonna kind of divide it in half. So the first 3, central administration, campus administration, and professional, are gonna be your exempt positions. These are gonna be the positions that are on your administrative pay plan. And then instructional support, clerical, and technical are grouped together on your paraprofessional pay plan, and then auxiliary is its own pay plan. So we kind of break up our market comparisons, but we do put them as a slide here so you can see them as a whole. So what you're looking at on your columns is employee pay to market is, again, how competitive on average is that employee pay compared to that market value. Then we have the pay grade midpoint to market. That is the market value that Dr. Trevino was talking about. When we have strong midpoints, that means that those raises are being calculated off of a strong market value for employees. For hourly, our starting pay, our pay grade minimums is very important because we typically hire in hourly employees using starting rates. That's how we attract employees. And then the number of benchmarks are basically how many jobs did we match within that pay group. So overall, you can see employee pay to market is strong, as well as definitely the pay grade midpoints. We made a few adjustments this year to the structures and the pay grade midpoints to ensure that we were aligned with market. But overall, there wasn't major structure needs just because the district is doing such a great job of maintaining those midpoints. And so we want employees to kind of move into the range a little bit and to get that employee pay to market strengthened just a little bit more. And so as they move into the range, that will do that with those strong midpoints. So you're where you need to be right now. Now we're going to get into the recommendations. So the first recommendation, as I said, I provided pay structures to the district for each of those pay groups. We did make some adjustments. We rebuilt the hiring schedule for teachers based on House Bill 2 compliance requirements, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm recommending that the district implement the pay structures as they're proposed to align with market values. And so essentially what that means is the compensation plan, the structures in the compensation plan. And what those structures have done and what I've adjusted for the district is we've improved starting salaries, we bumped up starting salaries for hourly a little bit as well as our non-hourly. And then we aligned the midpoints with market, and then we did a few movement of certain jobs to align within structures, and that was a collaborative effort between the district and myself, and we made sure that those jobs fit where they need to be. Recommendation 2 is going to be across 2 slides because there's several line items here. So the first slide is going to talk about House Bill 2 compliance. And I'm sure many of you have been informed about the teacher retention allotment, but that is going to be an allotment that is provided from the state to the district based on your enrollment size. And because you have fewer than 5,000 students, you will receive the allotment based on your teacher experience of the 4,000, 8,000. So teachers with 3 to 4 years of experience will receive the $4,000. Teachers with 5 or more years of experience will receive $8,000. And that will be funded through the teacher retention allotment provided to the district. There is no funding under the teacher retention allotment that provides for teachers with 1 to 2 years of experience. However, our recommendations to all districts this year has been that you need to do something for those particular teachers. And what most districts are doing is they are providing anywhere between that 2 and 3%. We work together as a district to decide on the $2,000 for those 2 years. And then there's only 2 librarians on the teacher structure. The district has decided to leave them there, and they will receive the allotment, according to their years of experience, and that affects 2 employees. Moving on, for non-teachers, I have provided 4 general pay increase models, and what it will look like, and we'll get to those in just a minute. It will have options basically for what the district can evaluate and determine aligns with budget the best way, okay? So basically Model 1 and Model 2 are going to be a straight general pay increase model, similar to what you've seen last year, but providing 2% of the pay grade midpoint for all non-teachers. And then Model 2 is going to be 3%, okay? The district also requested that we provide a GPI model for administrative professional and then a straight 75-cent increase for all hourly. And so that's what Model 3 and Model 4 looks like. So that way we have different cost estimates.
And that 75 cents is per hour.
Yes,
Not just
exactly.
75
Per hour. So whatever they, their hourly rate was this year in the pay file, they will have 75 cents more next year. All right, so recommendation 3 is about adjustments. So after we apply the general pay increase, or for teachers and librarians, the straight allotments and what we're allotting to them as flat increases, then we want to look at their salary to say, okay, what does this salary look like compared to market? And for some employees, we need to make a few adjustments. So there will be a very few, but a handful of employees that after we apply the general pay increase, they're still going to be below that minimum of the pay grade. So we provide them an additional 1% to move them into the range. And what that does is, one, it puts them above the minimum. So anyone that's hired into the district at that minimum pay rate with 0 years of experience would not leapfrog them. So we don't want our veteran employees to be leapfrog. We want them to move into the range. When we're looking at teacher pay equity adjustments, we know that our teachers and librarians are going to receive a large amount this year. And so we want to look at those other positions within the educational career pathway. And so those are going to help do some equity adjustments there. Strategic adjustments are going to be what the superintendent and staff look at for certain salaries, because there will be adjustments within there within pay groups to ensure that internal equity is appropriate, as well as there are other jobs that need some adjustments that we've discussed. And then placement scale adjustments are actually, it is for one pay grade in the auxiliary group, and that is going to be for pay grade 1, and that's to ensure that with raising the starting rate that we're not going to have all of those jobs compressed. Recommendation 4, and it'll be later in this workshop, but consider increasing stipends for hard to fill teaching assignments as proposed by the district. We've internally discussed some of those proposals, and the district will talk with you about those recommendations. But remember, for recruiting and retention efforts, our hard to fill teaching stipends are important to be competitive. And then we do recommend to continue to annually review the district compensation plan and update as needed to maintain market competitiveness, whether that's working with TASB or doing that internally. It's always an annual activity that should be occurring with the district. So now we're going to have the models. You have them in front of you because it's really hard to see here. But with that said, where the yellow highlights are, we wanted to show that the yellow lines are going to be what the state is going to be funding. Everything else is what the district would locally fund, whether that would be with some of the support staff allotment or local funds accordingly. So just know on each of these models, the yellow is actually going to be what will come through in the allotment. And just so you know that some of that money will start coming into the district September 1st based on last year's PEMS and some of those pieces. And then the remainder of it will come a little bit later in the year. So essentially the district's not going to have to float the money to start, which is a good thing.
Right, no, for sure. And I just want to make sure that I share with the board that the money that we're going to receive from TA to provide the teachers the 8,000 or the 4,000 is based on PEMS, right? Every teacher is coded, every student is coded, every individual that works in the district is coded, and the state is able to link that to, you know, your social, et cetera, right? So teachers that maybe, I just want to make sure that everyone understands, if they were coded as a substitute in a vacancy, the TA did not get that as a teacher for that year. You know what I mean? Because they weren't coded as a teacher of record. They were as a substitute in an existing vacancy. So when we're looking at the numbers, you know, with Liana, with HR, we're going to be really, really careful, because we're only going to get the money from the state based on how they were coded on PEMS. And then the state also will be adjusting the ADA per student, right? So how much we receive per student will be increased, I want to say like $55. And that'll help us meet the salary increases for all the other individuals. Okay, so they're gonna give us a little more money, so will we be able to cover all of it? Well, no, but it'll help.
Yes, exactly. So there is gonna be, more pass-through money, and so what I will say is just from the districts that we're working with, and they've been like a July 1st adoption, that many districts were kind of went with their original plan of what they were thinking about, whether it's 2%, 3%, and they're adjusting accordingly for their teachers. And most of those districts are providing the allotment to the teachers who are supposed to receive that, and then they are using their other local money to divide across everybody else. So that is typically, because we get that question a lot of what are other districts doing? And this is what we're seeing so far. And I've been to several board conferences and I work with districts and compensation. That's pretty much what we're hearing across the state.
And another thing that I'd like to share is the starting salaries for teachers this year was $54,800. We're recommending to push that up to $56,400.
Yes.
So we are moving the starting salary as well. Based on that, and even with our current, that's third, I guess, with all the neighboring districts that we could find.
So you have it, like I said, it's really hard to see here, but Model 1 is going to be obviously what's required for teachers and librarians, but this will be the 2% for all of your other groups. Model 2 is going to be required compliance for your teacher librarians, and then 3% for all other groups. The Model 3 is going to be the household 2 and the other for your teachers and librarians. It will be 2% for administrative professional, then the 75 cents per hour increase for clerical, paraprofessional, auxiliary. And then Model 4 is going to be the standard for the teachers and librarians, 3% for administrative professional, and then the 75-cent increase per hour for clerical, paraprofessional, and auxiliary. So I wanted to provide all 4 models so you can see the cost differences and those type of things. Obviously, these 4 models are what we proposed, but within your next few workshops and discussions and all of those things, wherever you land, Dr. Trevino will let me know and we will make adjustments accordingly. Okay, so that is basically the presentation, but I am happy to answer any other questions. We can go back, whatever you need.
And I just, so everyone can understand. So let's go, for example, to Model 2 or 3 and 4. That's a page I'm on. So we would be receiving 1.7 million for the teacher retention, right? All the other adjustments, et cetera. But the district's contributions to this particular one is it 469,000?
So it would be the 483,627, and then the subtotal there of the 469,657. I don't have my calculator, but about 900,000, right? Is that about right? 950.
Okay.
So if you take that bottom number on the top total cost estimate, the 2,600,000 and, sorry, it's hard to see, 59 to 90, and you subtract the 1.7 million from that, that will be what will be locally funded in this model.
And I guess I'm looking more specifically so the board can understand the 75 cents, for example. And if we do the regular one for the auxiliary, and I'll just start with 2% because that's what I know. 2% off the midpoint would cost us 451,000. If we went with the 75 cents, it'd be 469,000.
Yeah, so if you go into the specific group, for sure. So if you go back to Model 1 for auxiliary, and if you were to give them 2%, so that's like 20, then, the total cost there would be the 97,844.
Right.
But then if you're looking at the 75 cents, it's obviously increasing every one, it would be about 212. So that's on slide 22, I'm sorry, page 22.
Right, so it'd be like double, but
Yeah.
they would get more.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, we even put a few adjustments on there to alleviate compression.
I just wanted to share that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people hear, 75 cents,
Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot more than.
more.
Yes, ma'am, yes.
I just want, you know,
Oh, yeah.
No,
And that's covering how many employees would qualify for that 75-cent? Am
the
I
one
looking at it?
53 and the
Okay.
136.
Yes.
So the clerical, paraprofessionals,
And
and the
auxiliary.
auxiliary.
Yes,
And that is a lot of employees.
and we would be taking care of
That's
it.
about half the district.
Yeah.
Thank you for clearing that.
Any other questions?
And thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was wonderful to visit.
Meeting
Thank
in
you.
person.
What's the content?
Thank you so much.
The next item that we have is just to review our staff allocations and stipends. Thank you. I know you want to stay in Ellen.
Oh, I do, but I gotta drive, so.
You drive safe. And so I think Ms. Vivianeda will be addressing these and pretty much just the things that are different from last year.
Good afternoon, Dr. Trevino, Madam President, and Board of Trustees and audience. Hey, pretty much if you look under the staffing allocations, there's not too much of a difference from last year to this year. There's only a very few, which is a good thing for our district. Okay, the only one you see, and you'll be looking only at the yellow, whatever's in yellow, and you're gonna see there's not much yellow on the staffing allocation. So the changes, very, very minimal. The only thing you see is on the social workers, where you see it'll now, because the social workers were provided by a grant, they were on a grant. So now we'll be having one social worker for Noonan and Shallard, one for DuBose, and one at Science. But we did already with the principals, and which would provide the need, where's the need at these campuses? And the need right now will be majority at DuBose and Science, and the principals for Noonan and Shallard are very aware and we're gonna work together to make it work to provide the needs and support for our students and for those campuses, okay? Then if you just, I ended up putting everything else, if you see the next page, okay? And no, there's no changes there. And these are for the elementary level. The next one is in the middle school staffing, the same thing, all right? No changes. Everything pretty much stays the same, which is a good thing for, like I said, for this coming year, all right? The next page, no changes. Special education, same thing, no changes. And then we get to the high school guidelines, same thing. It's all good, staying the same. And, you know, when I met with Ms. Martin, they said it's a real good thing. Like you all are on track, you all are in a good pathway because we've had very minimal changes for our school district. So continue, and you'll see everything. I just posted everything on there so you'll be able to see it and just keep going. And that'll be it. It's pretty much the social workers that will see the difference because it's on a grant. But like I said, we already met with the principal and the needs for its needs, you know, for the students and the campuses. Okay. The next thing I would like to cover is on the stipends. I did meet with the committee on the stipends, and we had a group of people that were involved. That we all came together for the stipends. Let me keep going. Okay, and you'll see on these stipends, okay, the people that were involved with the stipends were like Coach Castellano was there, Mr. Perez and Medical Perez, the Fine Arts, Ms. Kubala, Dr. Kubala, Dr. Cantu. There was quite a bit of our leaders that were present, and we went through line item by item. And the only changes we came up with as a recommendation that was recommended by the committee, okay? And you'll be seeing it right here. Okay, the recommendation that was made by the committee was where you see the math, okay? Math was getting 4,000, and it was proposed to go ahead and bring them down to 3,500 because of what we have for English. English was not getting that. So now our English 1, and there at Alice High School, where it's teaching English 1, the needs that we have, they now will be getting a stipend of 3,500, which
But
is
it's not just English one,
What?
it's all
All
English
English.
teachers at the high school.
all English teachers at Alice High School, which is a win, because they truly deserve it. And we're one in the region that is providing this for our English teachers.
If approved.
If approved, if approved. So that is a good thing. So now it'll be the math, the science, and everybody at the English teachers at Alice High School. Okay. And those are all the recommendations that were made by that committee. Everything else stayed the same. On the cost savings, what we had for the cost savings, we had very few changes again. We ended up saving for the library aides at Alice High School. We saved there $23,397. The library aides at WAMS, we saved that amount. Technology supervisor, we saved that amount, $31,347. One English teacher, we ended up, because of the numbers of students that were there that for this coming year, that's why it was cut down by one English teacher. The project director and special programs, because it was a grant, they were being paid out by a grant. The art teachers, Shallard and DeBose, those were, but we're still providing the art services because we do still provide music at all our elementary levels, at all our elementary campuses. Okay, so that's a good thing. Mr. Pettis is doing a beautiful job with that. One social worker, like I said, at Nuna, because it was by grant. The one dean of instruction. Okay, and then so our total savings came out to $393,023, which is good for a district for this coming year. Okay, so there wasn't too much of a change. It's good. On the compensation plan, and this is what you'll be seeing, is as of last year, and I guarantee anybody that would say, what is your starting salary for your school district? And which was fantastic, which was $54,800. This coming year, we're proposing our starting salary to be $56,400, which is an increase of $1,600, which is real good, plus what has been proposed. Okay. Any questions?
I did have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the ESL and bilingual, it says vary, so that's only if they have students, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But we are considered a bilingual district or an ESL?
Yes, so
Yes,
ESL.
we don't have, but
Enough students, okay.
very right, exactly. Yes, ma'am.
And is there a requirement for our teachers to be ESL or no?
just their certification.
Just if they have it?
Right. But I did want, was gonna go to where we have the bilingual stipend.
Yes.
Because in the past, it was where you had to be the teacher of record. But in Alice ISD, not necessarily as the teacher of record, the one serving
Right.
to prepare kids for that bus or to prepare them for their state assessment. And so this year, we're gonna go with the teacher who's actually serving the kids and preparing them.
Because in high school, it could be various teachers.
Correct. But they also just have pretty much one that works with them directly, which is Dr. Vincent.
Dr. Vincent, we do have a couple, and one is here, who have made a big impact helping those students, and so they will be getting a stipend.
And what are we hearing about the ACE program? Are we gonna be?
Rumor has it, right? But I think the latest is that they will be covering it, correct? Yeah.
For this year or just at
Well, I mean, for us, it's gonna end at the end of this
the
year.
end of this year?
We were planning to reapply if it does open up.
Open up.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as the math and science teacher stipend, I understand that we're reducing that by $500 to accommodate and give a cushion to allow us to give the stipend for the English one, all English students at the high school.
Yes,
Was that
and
the
there's
reason?
one at WAMS,
And it went, okay.
one teacher.
But my question is why would we really do that? And save $500 for each math and science teacher? And then not make the English and English 1 the 4,000 as well. If in years past, we've been giving $4,000 to the math and science. I'm not really understanding that, other than if that's just a monetary issue.
It really is a multiple thing. It is the budget, that's one, because we probably will go into fund balance to try to meet the budget, right? We're gonna go into fund balance. But two, no longer is math and science as much in need as in the past. Okay, English is the one where we struggle to find the teachers. And English teachers now need to be bilingually certified as well. So they have to go back to school and get their endorsement for that. Or at least challenge the test, where no other content area is expected to do that. The state said eventually they will, but they haven't made that announcement, and it's been a few years since the English teachers have had to get that extra certification in their, they need to get bilingually or ESL certified. And like I said, the need to find the teachers, it's no longer where it used to be, where we couldn't find math and science. It's the English that we're struggling with.
So the question is are we confident that we're not gonna lose math and science teachers because we've reduced their stipend? That's kind of where I'm going with this, and I appreciate, opening it up, and I'm looking at that we're saving almost $400,000, which is phenomenal. And I'm 100% supporting Dr. Trevino's path of revamping the English program at the high school. That's something she did day one, and bringing back the rigor to that program, the AP. So I'm behind that 100%, but if we can afford it, why don't we just keep it at 4,000 for the math, the science, and the English? And I'm not saying we can't afford it. I just want to know, can we afford that? Is that something the board can consider? Because again, we had a great meeting. Hats off to bringing us up to possibly a B campus, and these are still the core subjects that are tested on. So I'm just inquiring if, when we come back and we are considering action on this item, if we could look at those numbers that I personally would like to see.
I mean, no,
If
most
it's
definitely
affordable.
we can look to see with the business office. And then again, she didn't share it, but when you look
I
at
saw that.
the stipends for all the other neighboring districts, they're all at either 3,000 or 3,500. No one else was at 4,000
Right.
for the math and science. But we can definitely look at it to see if, what that would do to the budget.
Right, and I'm saying that because earlier during this workshop, we saw the impact of what 75 cents can make. Okay, so that's why I'm asking, what impact is $500?
I'd like to add to that. Well, and I actually like seeing 3,500 across the board, only because, I feel that those teachers work very hard regardless. But when it comes to testing, English 1, the English, the reading, it counts more heavily. They have to score higher than they do in, science and math, so.
And in this district, we've never given the English teachers.
Yeah, so I kind of like seeing that it's fair, and not because they all deserve to get a stipend, but I'm just saying that, when it comes down to testing and you look at what they have to meet to make approaches, it's usually a higher than it is in math and science. Not that they don't work hard either, but I'm just saying that I like seeing it kind of even, but I do understand Jennifer as well. But I do think that, we are definitely acknowledging our reading teachers, and so I think that's good.
And this is not including the ones from the middle school, the math and science is including, but
That's why I'd
because
like to see those numbers.
it will be, again, almost different.
Thank you so
Any
much.
other questions? We would like to see if, on the 7th, we have another work session that we'd like to see how then, if you want to give me a direction as to which one, you all would like to lean towards, so we can start working with the business office to evaluate at least the 2%, 3%, or the 2 with the 75, or the 3 with the 75. Give me a few, that way I can start narrowing it down. And then we can look at that for the 7th, and then at least approve and we can have a further discussion on the compensation plan, the stipends for the 7th, and hopefully at least approve that part. Maybe not the budget, because the 2% or 3% on the 11th, but at least the compensation plan and the stipends. And then we'll probably have to have a special call meeting before the end of August, because we need to approve the budget and put stuff in the paper.
Tax rate.
Right, the tax rate and all that. So we're gonna have 2 more work sessions, or at least 1 more with another special talk. Yeah, kind of just,
Okay, well, who's gonna go first to open it up for a discussion?
I like to see the 3% with 75 cents. You see how it looks? Because everybody deserves what we can afford. And I know monies are tight, but I think hopefully we can do the 3%.
I have a question, Dr. Firmino. So last year, we had compensated an additional $75 for health insurance. Are we still
Keeping that.
budgeted to do that again?
Yes.
Okay, good. So that's something that,
Yeah.
I'd like Ms. Guerra, Mr. Reeves to know, since they were part of that, that's also.
yes, thank you. Previous years, the district would contribute $300 per employee per month. Last year, we upped it as a district to pay $375 a month per employee. And so that, although the employees didn't see it, had we not contributed that and the board approved that, then that would have needed to come out of their salary to cover that, because insurance last year spiked up significantly
So
from
we're
the state.
looking at keeping it or adding additional?
No, keeping it at 375.
And have we heard back, did we do TRS?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that going up or this year or?
I'll have to check the rates.
More than likely, yes.
I was gonna say, I heard that one.
More than likely, yes.
When it says non-teachers, it's considered administration and all,
Yes.
so they would be going 75 cents?
No, those would be 3%.
Okay, the 3%, okay.
The only 75 cents is for your hourly employees.
Okay, I'm with Lee, I look at the 3% with 75 cents.
Well, just here's the numbers, right?
Yeah,
There's,
present the
it's pretty
number.
big, I mean, obviously.
Right.
If, I mean, and then net out the extra.
$55 or whatever.
$55, net that out.
Right.
It's really huge.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, it should help us, but like she mentioned, just in case, for assistant principals, teachers are hiking up 8,000, right? And so we're gonna have to also, and she's gonna help us make those adjustments fairly. So when you say yes, the 55 additional dollars is gonna cover some of it, but not all of it, but we do want to look at all the options that we possibly have, so we can share with you what can we afford and how much would we be going into the fund balance.
Our counselors are with teachers, correct?
Not here,
No, okay.
What?
So they would be also
the
the
3%.
3%, okay.
Two, whatever.
Or 2, so.
Or 2.
Depending on what the numbers look like.
So that, and that's why I'd like to give you a couple of options, so if I work at the numbers for the 3% and 75, is there another one that you want me to look at? The 3% or the 2% or 75, or the,
The 2% with the 3%.
Right, so I think the consensus is we wanna do the 75 cents, right? Is that
Module 3 and 4.
okay? Fair to say.
Module 3 and 4.
Yeah, whenever the modules were.
3 and 4, Melissa.
3.
All right, that'll help us.
Or module 3.
4%?
model pre-informed to evaluate and bring back to you on August the 7th.
Well, what the issue is that we don't want, I mean, the TIA is great and all that, but now you have administrators saying, maybe I should go back into the classroom because look at all this extra money my teachers are getting. And there's, in some instances around the state, there's actually teachers making more than administrators at their schools, so.
And I know it's in the works, but I know that at the TIA conference, they talked
Yes.
about
Yeah.
adding a TIA portion for administrators, but of course, we would be starting at ground zero.
Right, and it will take 4 or 5 years by the time they get the application, what are they gonna do to measure it? So we're gonna try to see what we can do to balance it out, but thank you for the direction. Yes,
That was it. Next steps?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that was item number 6 on the agenda, the next steps. Thank you for the discussion. And on to item number 7, adjourn. It is now 1:07 and this meeting and budget workshop is now adjourned.